So there's a lot going on today on Twitter that's related to the ancient Mediterranean. First is the Christ is King trend that's going on right now. And for a little context, I so I looked at or I saw a few people tweet about this or the origins of the Christ is King phrase. And someone said, and I don't know how true this is, that it has its origins in the real old religious right, and then it's been reappropriated by Nick Fuentes and the Groypers. So ever since Nick Fuentes and his movement have sort of taken this phrase and appropriated it, it seems to have some anti-Semitic context. Um, and recently, or within like the last few days. The reason why this trend is popping off is because it's from what I remember, Candace Owens left the Daily Wire and then she tweeted around that time, Christ is King. I could be getting the details wrong. I'm a bit fuzzy on the details, but um and the whole controversy surrounding her leaving the Daily Wire had to do with her takes on Israel and Palestine. She's more pro-Palestine, and obviously Ben Shapiro and the Daily Wire are more pro-Israel. So with her tweeting "Christ is King" with while that was going on, and then this hashtag or trend sort of catching on, there obviously a bunch of anti-Semites on Twitter have appropriated this and sort of taken it and sort of jumped on this opportunity. But I tweeted about this trend. My first tweet, I said, LMAO at the Crisis King trend. Dude was a crazy first century Jew who thought the end times were going to happen in his lifetime and ended up taking the L to the Romans. Clearly not a king. I mean, this tweet's self-explanatory. Uh, Jesus was a Messiah claimant, and in the context of the first century Judea, uh, or also within the context of first century Judaism, the Messiah was supposed to be someone or a political figure that was supposed to destroy the enemies of God, who at that time would have been the Roman Empire, and then kick them out and reestablish God's kingdom on earth in Israel. Now, not only did Jesus fail at doing this, he was also executed and was crucified, which is the opposite of what the Messiah is supposed to be. So, um, and obviously, the vast majority of first century Jews who were not Jewish Christians, when they first encountered Jesus's followers after his death, who were claiming that he was the Messiah, they thought they were the non-Christian Jews thought that his followers were crazy because he was crucified, and that's not what is supposed to happen to the Messiah. He's supposed to destroy God's enemies. So, and yeah, he was a obviously he was pretty crazy because he thought uh, the end times or the end of history was upon the inhabitants of the known world at that time. And there's evidence that he thought this in the New Testament, where he's telling his disciples that they will, when the kingdom of God is upon them and is reestablished on earth, that they will inherit, him and his followers the uh will inherit the kingdom of God on earth. So he thought it was going to happen in his lifetime. Obviously, it didn't. Um, so yeah, he's pretty crazy. Um, yeah, and I end the tweet by saying, clearly not a king. The Messiah is supposed to be. And the reason why I say this is the Messiah is supposed to be like I said, a political figure, and it's the Messiah was thought of as a sort of a king-like figure, not sort of, very much like a king-like figure in the guise of someone like King David. And this is why, if you've ever read the New Testament during Jesus's, um, when you get to the part about Jesus's trial, Pontius Pilate, who, by the way, in real life was not a nice guy and did was not nice to the Jews. In fact, was pretty kind of a actually very much an asshole towards Jews. But anyways, during the Jesus's trial, he Pilate asks him, um, "Are you the king of the Jews?" And then, if you read that and you understand the context of um, first century apocalyptic Messiah claimants and what the Messiah meant to first century Jews, king of the Jews, that very much means is very much the same thing as the Messiah. And it is, he's the Messiah is supposed to be the basically the heir to King David and the one that brings back the kingdom very much very much in the uh how do I phrase this? Very supposed to reestablish the kingdom of basically a Davidic kingdom or kingdom of God and bring Israel back to the good old days. So with that all in mind, Jesus was a failed Messiah who was wrong about the end times happening in his lifetime. And not only that, his following at the beginning wasn't even that big. In fact, there was another, and as some of you probably know, there were a ton of Messiah claimants and first century apocalyptic Messiah figures. And and as far as Jesus's movement goes, his movement was really not that big. And in fact, there was another Messiah claimant who was called the Egyptian prophet, who actually had a more notable and um, more basically a larger movement that was causing so much trouble that the that the Roman military had to be brought in to crush his rebellion. And that so anyways, then I tweeted the obvious irony that um, Christ is King is being used as a anti-Semitic dog whistle when in fact Jesus was obviously a Jew. Um, it's pretty obvious, no surprise there. He during the Last Supper, he was celebrating Passover. His name's Jewish. He spoke Aramaic, so which was the lingua franca or the common language for Jews in the first century Israel, Palestine. Um, but yeah, I point out that it's being used as a anti-Semitic dog whistle because as someone else, I think it was the leader of Atheists for Liberty who pointed this out that was it's now being appropriated by Nick Fuentes and the Groypers, and it's so basically being used um as an anti-Semitic dog whistle. And especially with the in the last few days, I've seen several screenshots where rather than being the um, sort of benign, um, pure, holy phrase that one might think it is, um, there are screenshots that show that it's being used as an anti-Semitic sort of um, anti-Semitic attack against Jews because yeah, like I said, I've seen screenshots where people have said, Christ is king, you dirty Jew, things like that. Um, and then, within the context of Candace Owens sort of um you know, sort of flirting with anti-Semitic tropes and conspiracy theories about Israel and this her splitting with the Daily Wire and then anti-Semites on Twitter jumping on that opportunity to um uh s- you know create a conflict with Jews on Twitter. The way Christ is King is being used, I think it's very much uh or it can be argued that it's an anti-Semitic phrase. Um and regardless, something to ask any of these gripers or anti-Semites is you're saying Christ is king and you're using it as an anti-Semitic attack or, you know, uh, dog whistle against Jews, but you're, you know, um, your Messiah or um, the deity or divine figure you look up to. He was a Jew when he lived in the early first century. So how do you reconcile that? Anyways, the second sort of viral um, Twitter controversy that was going on today was, uh, former Republican candidate Vivek Ramaswamy tweeted about his trip in Rome. He's there with his family, and he used it as an opportunity to say racism didn't exist in ancient Rome, and there were all sorts of emperors, were all sorts of colors, white, black, Arab, and he's using that as, I guess, as a way to show that that's the ideal that America should strive for. And also, America is similar to Rome in his view, in that it doesn't matter what color you are, you can move up the economic ladder, and there's all sorts of opportunities, and um, you know, um, like it basically saying, like in ancient Rome, it doesn't in America today, it doesn't matter what your color is, just as long as you have something to offer and or a card, etc., etc., then you can make something of yourself. Um, Now I don't mind if you're talking about how culturally and keyword being culturally diverse the Roman Empire was, or how you're talk, or if you want to talk about how um people from different parts of the empire could move up the economic ladder, become an influential figure, or get into politics. And you make sort of a comparison with America today and how there's opportunities for people of different backgrounds and different ethnicities, et cetera, et cetera. But my issue with this tweet, like, and also Razib Khan and Ra Tom Rosell from, I think his channel is Survive the Jive. Both of their issues with what Razib or what, sorry, what Vivek tweeted is the issue that I have with Vivek's tweet is that the emperor that, so he says emperors were white, black, Arab, didn't matter. The so-called black emperor that he's referring to, I believe, is Septimius Severus. And as I point out in my tweet, um, Severus was not black. He was of Italic and Punic/Phoenician descent. And I talked about this in my earlier video, or my video from, I think, back in September 2023, when I was responding to the We Were Here from the Start video from BBC. I pointed out that Septimius Severus was the furthest thing from being black. He was of a completely different ancestry. As I said, part Italic and part um part Phoenician, and his mother is from a prom was from a prominent um Italic family, and same with his father. He was from a prominent Punic family that probably had mostly or traces most of its ancestry back to the a Phoenician mercantile or Phoenician merchant elite that established itself in Lepidus Magna. Um, in fact, and I talked about this in the my response video to the BBC music video. We were here from the start. Um, there's an anecdote, I believe, in the Historia Augusta, where while Septimius Severus is at I believe he's at Hadrian's Wall. He's definitely in the province of Britain, with the military. He encounters an Ethiopian, or which is the Greco-Roman term for black sub-Saharan. He encounters a black Ethiopian uh, soldier, and then he's so startled by the skin color of this black Ethiopian soldier that he takes it as a bad omen. So that implies that one, he had never seen a black person before. If he's never seen a black person before, that means he was a different race or was obviously not black and much lighter skinned. And then also, uh, if he if he's like so spooked or so startled by um a Ethiopian black soldier, that means he um may harbor or hold some stereotypes um regard or regarding or stereotypes about black or sub-Saharan Africans. Um so yeah, regardless, that anecdote implies that he that Septimius Severus was not black. He had never encountered a black person before. And this kind of goes into the next point I made was even though racism as we know it in the modern day did not exist in the Roman world, they still had stereotypes about Germanic peoples who they called the barbarians, and they had stereotypes about Ethiopians and Egyptians and various ethnic groups throughout the known world at that time. And there's obviously xenophobia, or what we would might recognize as xenophobia. So I don't know, there's several issues with Vivek's tweet. Um, and I just want to point it out. But I just think overall, I think it's kind of interesting that two viral Twitter, um, two viral Twitter trends or um two viral Twitter controversies sort of popped off today, and they both are related to the ancient Mediterranean. So let me know what you guys think in the comments, but otherwise that's all for now.